Hello, Karens. In this week's episode of You Can Call Me Karen, I continue my campaign of potential options for a new Karen name, which I think the world agrees with me is Jessica. So if you're with me, please comment or offer up other suggestions, always open to new ideas. But we do get into some really dark topics this week. So this week we are diving into kind of the history of Columbine. As millennials, it was a pretty defining moment in our upbringing. And so we wanted to unpack that and better understand it. And now that we can reflect on it and have more information to react to. We also learn a lot about nihilism, which again is a very difficult topic. So we do ask everyone to please listen with care. Know that we get into some pretty deep topics and totally understand if you need to skip this week for a little mental health break. But for those that want to stick around, we're excited to have you. And we think this one will teach us all a little something about our past. So thank you for listening, and here we go.
And the green one, little box, and the blue one, box, and the yellow one, and the little, and the box, and the green one.
Hey boos, it's me, Manny, and I am the glutton for punishment who signed up to lead us in this conversation around perhaps the most insane cultural event of our childhood, or at least that we have ever covered on You Can Call Me Karen. One TikTok on my For You page about gropers, transmaxing, and incel culture. And next thing you know, I am spiraling down an unhinged rabbit hole as an investigative journalist for You Can Call Me Karen. We'll get into all that in just a minute, because I know listeners are dying for me to define these terms. But first, let's say hello to my co-host, Karen.
Hello.
And Stephanie. Hi. What up, girls?
Not much.
Hey.
Fine.
Are you ready to learn about all this stuff?
I'm scared. Sounds horrifying.
I have to say, I was like feeling a little down yesterday and looking forward to this. And then you warmed us up with that enlightening opening. And I'm like, oh, good.
I think it's still going to be fun because learning is always fun. Right?
Wow. What a true educator.
What a loser. L7 weenie. Okay, so let's jump into this week. There are strange, and I mean strange, things on the internet. So I, for one, am welcoming this Karen section to help cleanse me of the media I just consumed over the last 48 hours. So who's kicking us off?
If you're looking for a cleanse, I think maybe Karen should go first.
I always have to consult my notes. Okay, so my story is actually one that I heard on the radio, which
Radio.
I know. I
Don't
was
you
listening
get
to
the
the radio
radio.
in the car.
Y'all.
I am a millennial.
Wait, time out. Both you guys didn't recognize that quote?
I didn't hear it. What was
Radio, who needs a radio?
Yeah. Ready, Harry? Mock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bird. Yeah. 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 Karen's still trying to figure it out.
Wait, you know that one though, right, Karen?
Come on, Karen, please. Oh,
Please.
my God.
Please.
Please.
What is it?
No, don't tell her. Don't tell her.
What if I actually do know it?
Then you would have got it by those clues.
Can you just tell me?
All right, fine, Steph. You can tell her.
Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Dumb and Dumber.
What a disappointment.
I fear you're not a real millennial
Yeah.
if you don't know Dumb and Dumber.
I don't know how my ADHD was never diagnosed when I was a young child.
That is not ADHD. I have tons of friends who are ADHD who know Dumb and Dumber.
No,
And actually, I feel like my
movies
ADHD
in
friends
general.
know the quotes like they better
Yes.
than I do.
Yes.
I just mean,
Right,
I
Kim and
couldn't
Sarah?
sit through movies ever. Like, this was not a new phenomenon in my adulthood. I've never
But I'm
been.
just saying, I don't know if that's a characteristic
Okay.
because I have friends who are diagnosed and they can. Anyway, what's your Karen of the week?
My Karen on the radio. Okay, so the story was roughly this. There was there was two women and they had children who were like friends. They were like the same age and friends at school. And the one daughter would go to the other daughter's house. I'm going to call them, I can't come up with current names. I'm going to call them Karen and Jessica. So Karen would go to Jessica's house and Jessica was like always on her iPad. And so Karen would go home and tell her mom, I don't want to go to Jessica's house anymore because all she does is like sit on her iPad. And so Karen's mom was like, fine, you don't have to go to Jessica's house. And then Jessica's mom calls Karen's mom and she's like, Jessica really wants Karen to come over. And she's like always making excuses for why she can't. I think we should get the girls together. And then Karen's mom, I'm trying to keep everyone straight, was like, listen, I'm going to be really honest with you. Jessica is an iPad zombie, is the words she used. And then Jessica's mom got mad and Karen's mom got mad. And so I was listening to this story because at first I thought it was going to be super clear that Jessica's mom was the Karen. But then I was like, is Karen's mom the Karen? I think they were both Karens. Like one was confronting because the kids weren't playing together, like just mind your business. And then the other one was like, oh, I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you you're a bad parent. Like, so I was listening to this with
You both
Maxwell in the
lose.
car. We were going, I don't know where. And I was like, oh man, I've got my Karen story.
Yeah. Let someone call
Yeah,
me and say
just-
my kid is an iPad zombie. Like, first of all,
Yeah.
you probably know, and you're probably already beating yourself up about it.
That's true.
Yeah. And it's also, I would say, I love my kids and I do think that they're honest, but sometimes they
Exaggerate.
don't they exaggerate. So like a plain example of like when I was like, oh man, I really had a distorted sense of time when I was younger. Cause like Millie, every time we passed this one grocery store, she's like, remember when we used to go there every morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning on the weekends? And I always had to be like, yeah. And we did it like once. And
Yeah.
she recalls it as like always, you know? And like that's how she's like, that's how she's interpreting her childhood. It's like this one memory that we did one time is what we always did,
Yeah.
It's a good point.
you know? So I would be careful about the evidence. Like they
taking
have,
your
they're like
child.
such, like their testimony is unreliable sometimes, even if they have the best of intentions. So
Yeah. Their
That's such
sense
a
of
good point.
time is always, Maxwell's always like, last week when we did X, Y, and Z, and I was like, baby, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Quinn's trying to understand like yesterday or like everything was
Yeah.
yesterday. And like we
Yeah.
did that
Yeah.
yesterday.
like everything was yesterday.
At one point.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, I would just hesitate to tell another parent what my
My kid is
child
saying
reported
right.
back. If it, and you know, and just let it be. Just be like, I don't know. She's just having, like, blame it on you or the kid or, you know,
Or if like if the moms were actual friends, it's one thing to be like, listen, I don't know what the truth is, but Karen said this.
Yeah, and it's
so
weird that
I'm
she
sure
didn't
there's
even open
something
with.
else
She
going
says
on.
that when she comes over, this is what's happening. Like, do you have any insight? Like, do you feel like that's happening? Do you feel like, or do you think,
There's something else
like
going
play
on.
dumb?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh,
So
this goes back to what we said, season 1, like curiosity, like open with curiosity and asking questions. Like she went straight to accusatory and jumped in with like an assumption and
There you go.
didn't
She's the
ask
Karen.
any questions.
right. Yep. Good point.
Yeah.
All right, verdict's in.
Karen's mom is the Karen.
Karen's
By the
mom is the
way,
Karen.
I don't know if you caught, I intentionally picked Karen and Jessica because do you
Yes.
hear lately Jessica's the new Karen?
Yes,
No,
I,
she's
I
not,
did notice
but nice
that.
try.
Nice try,
I am
Karen. But
Did we already have this conversation? Because
Yeah,
a bunch
on
of people sent it to me.
Yeah.
And I laughed so hard because in college, if somebody approached me in a bar that I didn't want to talk to, I told them my name was Jessica.
It'll never escape you. You are who
I
you
was
are.
destined for this.
All right, Steph, what do you got?
my Karen of the week is not like I'm hesitant to even say it because like I know we are trying to like not trying to, but we're choosing to keep it light this season, and I hate to be political, but my Karen of the week is ICE
Oh,
and Donald J. Trump. So fuck ICE and fuck Donald J. Trump.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
All right,
I love how
should we
you're
just
like,
wrap there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just can't. I'm feeling real heavy today, and I have been, just consuming a lot of social media posts about the recent killings, plural, of citizens on the street, and I know like this isn't new, especially to Black people. So I'm not shocked, but I'm just frustrated, and I am sick of seeing political figures like posting like this needs to end. No, what I've seen posts that have said, I don't want to see a post with some sort of statement. It should say, today I propose this legislation. Like I don't want to see a post from a senator saying, the occupation of ICE in Minnesota needs to end. No, what are you doing to end
yeah,
it?
because if you're not doing anything, nobody
you
is.
are an elected official. Something just fell off the wall.
The ancestors agree with you, girl.
Yes. So, so anyway, my Karen of the week is the federal government.
Period.
That's all.
There's no need to elaborate. I love
No,
it.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for that one. So,
welcome.
I will say with that, our friend Celia has recommended a really great app. It's called the 5 Calls app, where it gives you like a script for you to call your senator, and it gives you like directions for how to, hold them accountable. They are your elected officials. She made a really good point of like, at first she was scared, but then she was like, they work for me, so why am I scared? So the 5 Calls app, I think she posted it on her stories, but thank you, Celia, for that information. If you two are feeling in any way outraged, discouraged, and want a way to be able to speak to your legislators, please use that app. And hopefully when we come back on for our next episodes in the future, we will have heard some sort of progress towards this, because this has to end. All right, those were good Karens. Ready to jump into it?
You just heard our Karen stories, but we can't be the only ones. If you've had a Karen or Chad encounter or confessional, you've been a Karen yourself, we'd love to hear from you. Wherever you listen, click on the link in our show notes and text us your Karen stories. We are.
into the
Abyss.
darker side.
The light topic for the
No,
day.
I think we'll be fine. You guys, I don't know. Let's just
I hate to like steal your thunder, but the first line of yours is the topic this week.
Yeah. It's rough.
Rough. Yeah. Okay.
As
let's do
an
it.
investigative journalist, it was a little rough. Like real dark, incredibly strange, and full of conspiracy theory and theorists. I've emerged from this research with an entirely new perspective of the impact that Columbine had on America, including a whole new subculture online who glamorize and memorialize the two shooters. But one thing I have found out for sure is that no matter how divided we all are, us millennials can agree that Columbine radicalized our generation. It's a day that will live vividly in our minds, which unfortunately was the wish that came true of the two murderers who aimed to blow up their school on April 20th, 1999. So in true You Can Call Me Karen fashion, we always start these episodes out with memories from the date, but there's so much I want to get into here, so I'm just going to skip over all of that. Like we all remember Columbine back in the day as America's first school shooting. It was full of propaganda with the trench coat mafia. Bullying is bad and can lead to school shootings. If you don't believe in God, you might get shot, as was originally claimed to be one of the motives of the killers, but has since been debunked. And perhaps the most impressionable one on me would be Eminem's lyrics of when a dude's getting bullied and shoots up his school and they blame it on Marilyn and the heroin. Where are the parents at? And look where it's at. Middle America. Now it's a tragedy. Now it's so sad to see an upper class city. I used to love that line. But today I want to explore its legacy. I mentioned some terms in the beginning of the episode that I want to start with. So to help our listeners get a better understanding, I want to play a clip from Threads by Barrett Paul. Am I saying his last name right? Paul?
I'd say Paul.
Paul, which I found on Threads. We will watch it, and then I want to get your reaction. So I think, Steph, you have this queued up and ready to play for everyone. It's like a 2-minute clip, so we'll just listen.
All right, bear with me. Technology is not my strength.
She's geriatric, people. She's an
I thought it was
elder.
unnecessary.
Don't worry, Steph.
That was unnecessary.
And we're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk, Nick Fuentes, who you just watched, trans. Tell me if this is weird to you, and then we're going to talk about it. And as always, please don't forget to save and share this, as it helps get this important message spread in this digital world.
Dating women is gay. Having sex with women is gay. And
Welcome back to Straight Guys Aren't Straight, Incel Edition.
we're really being honest. Never having a girlfriend, never having sex with a woman, really makes you more heterosexual.
Someone feels confused.
The only really straight heterosexual position is to be an asexual incel.
Oh, it gets wilder.
Having sex in itself is gay.
Just so that we're all on the same page, that person that was just talking is this person. And while you may be laughing at him, he has millions of people that listen to him, mostly young boys and men. Please ask your sons or brothers or fathers if they know who that is. There's a pipeline to the alt-right, and he is a part of it.
Have you ever been in a romantic relationship? Have you ever had sex with a girl? And I said no.
We now need to connect some very important dots, and we're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk, Nick Fuentes, who you just watched, transmaxing, femboy culture, and incels. And of course, everyone's favorite red pillar, Andrew Tate. And if you're like Barrett, I don't know what any of that means, well, welcome to the Love Army. Please make sure you hit that follow button, because I've been talking about this stuff for over 5 years, warning people that this is where we were going to get. Nick Fuentes has millions of followers, as I said in that video from 2022. Those followers are called the Groypers. And this comes from a Toad meme that you can look up easy. And they are largely incels, which means involuntarily celibate, meaning these are young men who can't have sex. So they turn to femboy transmaxing. This is now where it gets real dark and links back to the original video that I just played for you from 2022. Transmaxing is a subgroup of incels and groypers who are looking to transition not because they are in fact trans, but because they think that women have life easier than them and think it will up their social status, their ability to have sex, their ability to exist in this world in an easier way, which is crazy. But the thing that you have to remember here is that this is a ton of young prepubescent boys, maybe just hitting puberty, that don't really understand the real world and are sitting on technology, listening to someone like Nick Fuentes, who is 27, tell them how life is from his own mother's basement. And now I'm sure you're like, where does Charlie Kirk come into all of this? Well, Charlie Kirk is someone that Nick Fuentes and his groypers have strongly disliked because he wasn't far right enough. And what we know about the alleged person who Charlie Kirk is that he was a groyper, meaning that he was a follower of Nick Fuentes and got a lot of his ideology in the groyper, incel, super far right movement. And this is where we get back to why this is so important, because all of this focus on trans people is the wrong group of people as a whole, where we need to be looking at these young, mostly white boys who are on their phones, endlessly taking in super content. This idea that it's gay to have sex with women seems like kooky. However, to these 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old boys who are being actively radicalized by people like Andrew Tate, by people like Nick Fuentes, they are listening to this, taking it in, and already being rejected from women. So this gives them an easy answer in their very short little lived lives to not feel as if they're wrong. And this is why I say that the answer to patriarchy is not matriarchy. I love matriarchy, I'm here for it, but it's queerness. And I believe that within queerness, women lead as well. I think we need more female leaders as a whole period. Within queerness, you get to define yourself, not in this binary of like straight and gay, but as in a fluidity that allows you to safely identify how you want for yourself. And in a space where possibilities are endless for yourself and others in a safe way, means that you can't be preyed upon by people who want to put you into these little cages of masculine and feminine, male and female. Because at the end of the day, none of us are 100% anything. Again, this is why I've warned about the dangers of the red pill movement and people like Andrew Tate, because it's a pipeline to ultra far right ideology. There's so much more to this, but I'm going to stop here for now so I don't overload you with information. But I am curious, had you heard about all of this? Is this all new to you? Please engage in this conversation. And if you're new here, welcome to our Love Army. Much love, y'all. Tell me if this is weird to you, and then we're gonna.
All right. Thanks, Steph. So we'll start with the question that he ended with. Prior to me sending you this reel, prior to you guys watching this, were you guys aware of this online culture and all the various subcultures that exist on the alt-right?
No.
I definitely knew about the incel. Is it a movement? I don't know. Culture?
Incel culture, yeah.
But like that groyper thing was new to me, and transmaxing was new to me.
I saw the word groyper. I want to say groyper because it has a Y in it, but anyway. That
it might be that. I think I saw in the comments that he mispronounced it, but
it might be okay because I saw that word come up when after Charlie Kirk, whatever, and I didn't like investigate it because they said that I did see that people say that the guy who like killed him was a groyper, but I didn't know. Like,
yeah,
I didn't know that either.
I will say that I believe has been debunked. Like, I don't think that is true. Okay. I saw a couple of articles come out, which like brings me to like why I brought that up. So I wanted to start here because the TikTok post that I referenced in the beginning that led me down the spiral mentioned all these subcultures and that the Kirk shooter wasn't any of these, but he was part of something along the lines of nihilism. The post mentioned that nihilism culture actually started with the Columbine shooters and not the recent new age Republicans in the Trump era. I wish I saved the post, but it said that the coverage of Kirk was eerily similar to what the media portrayed the Columbine shooters as, and that is what piqued my interest. So this led me to go first online and find out the mythbusters of the Columbine story that I have been told. And I discovered that the shooters were never bullied and that the shooters were not a part of the group called the Trenchcoat Mafia, nor did they listen to Marilyn Manson. So, Karen, if you're in the document, I'd love for you to read the excerpt from the Guardian article, The Truth About Columbine, that I have here, to just give us some context for our listeners of what I saw.
Sure. Much of what we reported, though, was simply wrong, as attested by tens of thousands of official documents and other evidence that has at last seen the light of day after years of suppression by the local authorities. As the Colorado-based journalist Dave Cullen tells in his gripping and authoritative new book, Columbine, Harris and Klebold had plenty of friends, did pretty well in school, were not members of the trenchcoat mafia, did not listen to Manson, were not bullied, harbored no specific grudges against any one group, and did not, quote, snap because of some last straw traumatic event. All those stories were the product of hysteria, ignorance, and flailing guesswork in the first few hours and days. The truth was more sinister. Their ambition, harbored for about a year and a half and chronicled meticulously on Harris's website and in the boys' private journals, recovered after their deaths, was to blow up the entire school, not to get anyone in particular, but because they hated the world and intended to have fun annihilating as much of it as they could.
Yeah. Ooh, so that last piece was what unlocked the term nihilism for me. And when I decided to extend my search, and that's when I decided to extend my search. So among all these growing online subcultures, Groypers, Incels, transmaxers, there is also a true crime community noted as TCC and a No Lives Matters community that glamorizes violence similarly to what we just read. So Steph, I have another blurb from ISD Global, an article called Terror Without Ideology. So this really helps us to define nihilism. Would you mind reading that one that you see, and then we can get into it all?
Sure. ISD defines nihilistic violence as violent acts lacking on ideological motivation and driven by a misanthropic worldview. Our research has linked the two most prominent contemporary subcultures of nihilistic violence, the true crime community, TCC, and the pseudo-satanic No Lives Matter, to at least 4 school shooters and 5 disrupted school shooting plots, and 2 Swedish stabbing sprees in 2024 alone. While these acts of violence outwardly appear similar to extremist violence, they lack the political or ideological dimension that drives typical extremist acts. Nihilistic violence is an expressive, misanthropic act that seeks to fulfill an inward-facing emotional need and or garner notoriety or acceptance in nihilistic communities. Those who carry out nihilistic violence are not seeking to change society or promote a specific ideologic outcome. School shootings committed by participants in the TCC fandom are among the most notable examples of nihilistic violence in recent history. Manifestos left by attackers, social media analysis, and existing secondary research are devoid of evidence that these school shootings are carried out to promote an ideological objective. Instead, perpetrators of these attacks are deeply enmeshed in subcultures that share misanthropic and nihilistic worldviews, promote antisocial behavior, and encourage violence as an outlet for their emotions and personal struggles.
Oof, right? So I just want to get your reactions to that terminology. Have you guys heard of it before? Does that differ from the story that you all know to be true of what happened in April and Columbine with regards to the 2 killers' motives? Like, what are we getting from any of that?
It's definitely
go ahead.
different for me. Yeah, like I think a few weeks ago, I asked you what nihilism was because it was on our list. And so I had to start looking this up a little bit to understand, but I did not make the connection or understand the connection to Columbine. I definitely thought those still, like until this moment, those kids were this like trench coat mafia. They were outcasts, they were loners, they were bullied, they were all of the things that are listed there. And so this was their way of like getting back at the people who hurt them, essentially. So this concept of no lives matter, which is terrifying. Yeah, that's new to me.
And I think what's like the craziest in reading that is that there's really no like central cause. Like I feel like everybody was like set out to figure out like what caused it. So if you are bullied and you're sad, you're then going to go to this dark place and want to kill people who are cool. Or if you are, or if you belong to this group. And I feel like, since 1999 Columbine, I'm a teacher. So I feel like a lot of programs that we have in place are centered around being inclusive and, social emotional learning and all this stuff, which I think is important. And I think maybe you wouldn't have a No Lives Matter view if you felt like you belonged or if you felt valued. So I'm not devaluing it, but I feel like it's centered from the idea that if no one's bullied, then maybe you won't like shoot up the school. But that's not what it sounds like that is. So it just kills me, like, because see something, say something, and we have like say hello week and all these things, and
here we are. Exactly. And I think one of the things that was surprising to me, like when I was looking up all this stuff, like there is so much Columbine stuff. Like that's when you guys opened up the article, the document today, and you saw like all the articles that I had linked. I actually got rid of 2. But like I had started this research a couple of weeks ago because there's just so much there, and I wanted to be able to like fully tell a story. One of the things that I noticed with regards to what you were just saying, Steph, is that this was like a 3-part phase that they tried to plan out, and it was never about shooting up the school. It was actually about blowing up the school, which like that difference makes or that detail makes all the difference in how we consume this story, because they wanted to kill as many people as possible, and they knew they couldn't do that just by shooting up the school. They had their first phase was to have a bomb go off, I want to say like almost like a mile or so away from the school, so that it would distract the
law enforcement,
and they would go to there, and then they were going to have one detonate at the school, and those 2 bombs failed. And that's when they then went to shooting up the school.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. There was also a girl who, they were 17 at the time, and they couldn't buy rifles. So there was a girl who was 18 at the time who took them to a gun show and purchased the rifles for them like a day or a week or 2 before or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I say all that because like to your point of like the root of the problem was not what we were told. And we carried that up until just like what I heard you say, Karen, up until just now,
Well, and I think, Steph, your comments about what you teach in school on social emotional learning and inclusiveness, it's like, not only is it my ignorance, I'm one person, but it's like the entire society's ignorance. We have incorporated all of these elements into teaching our children to try to avoid these situations, but we're focused on the wrong thing.
We're focused on the wrong thing. Exactly.
Goodness,
So
Manny.
as I mentioned, all this came up for me after the shooting of Charlie Kirk, and that is when we were deciding about episodes. And I knew I wanted to intertwine this topic here because I see something that not many people are talking about, kind of like the trad wife topic. But it's happening in spaces that we might not be tuned into. and this is like to what you guys are just saying of like our eyesight is on the wrong like space, and that once we can look at the right space, then I feel like we might have a more productive conversation. So anyway, these subcultures somewhat exist on TikTok and Instagram, but even when I type in incels or groypers on TikTok, it says that this violates community agreements and you can't pull up any videos on that. But the Columbine stuff does come up. So Karen, here's another expert to explain a little bit better. Do you mind reading this for our audience?
Sure.
To give them a fuller picture.
Sorry. Let me just make sure I got it. In many respects, the Columbine shootings are considered a foundational event for supporters and content producers of mass casualty attacks. References to Klebold and Harris, including the music they listened to and the clothing and haircuts they wore, are commonly referenced and admired across an online ecosystem that has remained active across a range of social media platforms. There have been 394 school shootings since Columbine, and more than 360,000 students have experienced gun violence in schools. Yet many of these online users revere the Columbine shooting as an inspirational generational event. ISD found the most watched video in the dataset was a TikTok video using fictional Disney posters of Eric and Dylan, coupled with a similar poster of a Brazilian school shooter. The video amassed more than 399,000 views in 3 months. The glorification of mass casualty shootings and the perpetrators of these heinous acts has been a perennial problem for social media platforms. Despite numerous reports about the prevalence and impact of mass casualty shooting glorification on Meta, TikTok, and X, formerly Twitter, there remain significant gaps in the abilities of companies to curtail the proliferation of content dedicated to the perpetrators of a range of mass casualty attacks globally. Instrumental to many of these reports are the effects of the videos on minors who may be interacting with and even producing content supportive of these mass casualty perpetrators, and specifically the role social media may play in radicalizing young people.
Yeah, so that was a lot. I guess my question here, we've talked a lot about like social media and like social media for young people and these I know we've brought that up in previous seasons. So my question isn't really about the social media and the legislation. My question is like how almost like how do we get here, you know, like what equivalent would this be like for us millennials? You know, like we have a new wave of teenagers who are engaging in something that is like online and dangerous. Were these two shooters like the like founders almost of this nihilism, or did this exist for millennials and we didn't? Like, I'm trying to piece together, did we have any group that glorified mass killings like this? Is this human tendency, or did the media birth this phenomenon?
I was actually kind of wondering this, you know, in my typical fashion, I didn't read your questions in advance, but like in one of the prior quotes, I was thinking exactly that. Like, is this just the human condition in the modern world? And I know I've talked about, at least to the two of you, if not on this pod, listening to a podcast called Empire, which I highly recommend.
Oh yeah.
But it's a history podcast, you know, so it goes through some of like the most horrific times of human history where, and it, you know, it covers topics of slavery, it covers topics of colonialism, and I think I'm debating in my head of like, is this genuinely a new phenomenon, or is this just a modern version of I'll say the human condition in some weird,
Like the Roman Empire,
perverted
like
way.
the Colosseum.
Yeah, that's a good parallel. Yeah, like the Colosseum, where they used to bring people in to murder them, and like, and the spectators would bring in their grills and, you know, have a party and watch murder all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a really weirdly accurate comparison. I hate to sound so pessimistic, but I think it's sadder to me to think that this is the first time in history that people are doing terrible things to one another. Like, it's almost easier to digest if it's, you know, a reality of humanity, as sad as that is. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I was fine.
I have like weird, I don't know. It's like, am I understanding? I'm not sure I'm understanding the definition really then of nihilism. Like, is it just like no central cause for destruction kind of a thing? Is that?
Yeah, like no, like they're not. So this is why, like, if we were to take the Kirk example, and they were saying like, it was a Groyper or whatever, and it's been like debunked or whatever. Like so I'll back up a little bit. Like the post that I saw said something about like meme culture. So like using those memes is like a way for this culture, the nihilistic culture, to like not talk about anything. Like they're not so far on the right. They're not alt-right, and they're not on the left, right? Like that's where like the transmaxing piece kind of comes in, right? Of like, but you're also not like defining yourself an LGBTQ. Like they're not fitting into these cultural definitions that we have used to define sexuality, our political affiliations. And so when we're looking at what's the motive for this, there is none. Their motive is to almost like put on a show for the media. Like that's why it was like in the beginning.
Like live in infamy. Like they just want to be like infamous. Like
yeah. So the thing that I didn't, I'm sorry, I'll let you explain or to answer the question in 1 second, but just slight thing that I missed in the beginning was the Oklahoma City bombing happened a year prior to Columbine. And one of the things that was picked up in, I think it was Eric, what's his last name? It doesn't matter. His journal was that he wanted to be more famous than the Oklahoma City bomber, which is why they wanted to bomb the school and not shoot it up. They wanted to have more casualties than Oklahoma City. But remember, Oklahoma City was politically
Yeah, that was politics.
Okay. And it seems his motive was just simply the fame for doing something horrible, not making any sort of statement.
Right.
Okay.
I think the description, quote, "no lives matter," helped me a lot. It's like it just like nothing matters, you know, and so I'm gonna do the most damage I can because nothing matters.
Yeah.
So do you think then that like there still is value in folk, like, you know, mental health and, you know, like do you think that there's would still then be some sort of benefit to therapy and, you know, knowing like, or do you think that, or can you be are you mentally healthy and believe no lives matter? You know?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think so.
Because in that case,
you said that.
What? Oh,
go ahead.
Okay.
Finish.
Yeah, because in that case, you know, because like I said at the beginning, like I don't want to dismiss. I feel like I love like I have students who, you know, have anxiety or depression or whatever, and they'll openly be like, yeah, I was talking to my therapist yesterday, and you know, they were telling me, but whatever, or I have to, as though I have an appointment later, I have therapy later, so can you give me the worksheet for it? It's just like a casual, everybody is just comfortable with, you know, what they need to do to be healthy. And that's part of your whole health is not just physical health, but mental health. And so I don't want to dismiss that. I love that. Like, that was not like that when I was a kid. But yeah. So is that not part of it?
So let's wrap with my final question. So the final players of this story of today are the parents of the killers. Have either of you ever considered them or heard about their perspective of that day?
No.
Okay.
You mean like of the Columbine shooting kids' parents?
The parents who shot up, the parents of the kids who shot up the school. Like parents of mass killer, of school shooters. Have you guys ever?
I've thought about them, but
Yeah.
I've not done any. I don't know anything about them.
Okay, so Steph, can you read this blurb from Sue Klebold, who was Dylan's mom? So the way that the story kind of unfolds, just to like provide a little bit more texture, is that Eric was like the one who was like the mastermind, and Dylan was just kind of like going along with it. That's kind of what the narrative is online. And so Eric's parents have like, I feel like they've changed their names and have like disappeared. Like they do not want to be. Sue Klebold actually has a TED Talk and has, gone, I think she has a book maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway, so she's done a lot of interviews on this. So the one article that I found is also something that I found on like one of her interviews or a TED Talk. So, but this article is from Windsor called "Mother of Columbine Shooter Reflects on That Day 19 Years Later." So, Steph, do you mind reading? This is the final blurb. Can you read this for our listeners? I feel like we might be able to get some, I don't want to say understanding, but maybe perspective about the mental health piece that you were talking about.
Okay. It says, "I can't say that I had any indication that I knew what he was going to do. Dylan behaved very much like any other teenager that I had ever known. I was a teacher for years. I taught in a community college. I was an educator. I had a master's degree in education. I can't say that there was ever anything that Dylan did that worried me, except in his junior year, he got into some trouble for the first time in his life. He had a couple incidents all at once. He scratched a locker at school. He and his friends hacked into the computer system at that school because he was one of the computer technicians at the school. And he and his friend Eric were arrested for stealing something. That happened in a cluster in his junior year, and I was very, very upset. I didn't know what it meant. The boys were put in a diversion program rather than going to jail. They had counseling. They had classes. They had to pay money to compensate. They had to pay money to compensate their victim. So all these things were occurring, and I remember asking the diversion counselor, this is so out of character for Dylan. What could this mean? Could this mean something? And we talked with Dylan, and he said, Dylan, do you think you need counseling? And he said, no, I don't, but I will prove to you I'm fine, and I'll get my life back on track. And he did over the next 14 months. Even in the days preceding the shootings, he went to a prom just a few days before the shootings. He came home at 4 a.m. and we talked. He told me, thank you for sending me. I had the best time of my life.
Yeah. So that didn't really cover it, but he did have some of the stuff that I saw that Dylan did have depression and they were aware of it. So to tap into the mental health, they were aware of it. The parents were, Sue says that like in the morning of the shooting, he just left at like 5 a.m. and was just like, I gotta go, bye. And she was like to her husband, he seems off today. Like, you want to circle back to that when you get home with him and have a conversation about that, because he just left without like kissing us goodbye. And so I think he's having some sort of whatever. So I really don't have any question. I guess I just want your reflections on, as a parent, well, like, what are we to do? How do we monitor our teens in these spaces? Or is this seriously a silent killer, one that has no symptoms, no branding, no evidence that anything could go wrong?
I feel speechless. I mean, immediately I'm thinking of like Maxwell on his iPad, and he's 7 years old. Like, what could he be watching that I don't understand? Like the underlying implications of, you know, what kind of subliminal messaging is out there. I mean, I know this is just another thing to add to my anxiety, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, like, the words from the mom are gut wrenching, and also made me, for the first time, realize that, like, she also lost her son that day. And
Yeah.
while he was the cause of a lot of pain, that's still really sad. Yeah.
Yeah, she said in one of her interviews, like, she was in denial for several days of, like, that wasn't my son. Like, I don't, I mean, not to, like, I don't, because this story is so complicated, you know, and again, if you were to ever explore it, you know, obviously that really hurts the victims' families as well to hear that, right? So, but yes, to your point, Karen, I've never tried to look at it from the position of what it might be like to be a parent in that situation until now, because of how it seeped into the minds of the, like, it just feels so, like, unpreventable. I don't know. Like, I don't, you know,
It's like you think there's a solution for every problem if we could just figure out what the source of that issue was. But it, based on, you know, one paragraph of her commentary, it sounds at least like they were doing the things that you would expect a, quote, good parent to be doing.
Yeah.
And that wasn't enough.
Yeah. Steph, what were you going to say?
Yeah, like, it sounds like, you know, they knew he was depressed. They was I to understand he did see a counselor?
Yeah.
And she,
I believe. Yeah.
you know, even saw, like, notices when he's off, not necessarily knowing that kind of off meant what would happen that day, but, like, you know, it seems like she was an in-tune parent, or, like,
Right.
and so, like, it's not like the neglectful, I had no idea thing that you sometimes hear, you know?
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
So that's something.
Sucks. Because it's like, because, you know, sometimes you're like, where are the parents? What are the parents doing? Well,
Where are the parents at? And look where it's at.
It is interesting, like, you know, it is interesting to know that one of the two boys was depressed, for sure. And, like, we don't have any, I don't know if we have information about the other. And you said that this was the one who kind of followed along, maybe wasn't the mastermind, but was, you know, and, you know, could that, the, not manipulation, but just, like, the, what's the word? Like, naivety and, like, for him to just kind of fall in line, or maybe looking for acceptance or meaning, connection, you know, because when you are depressed, you feel disconnected, you lose joy in things, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then there's also they, like, they planned also to die. Like, they planned, like, phase 3 was, like, after the bombs go off is phase 1. After we shoot up the school is phase 2. And phase 3 is we're going to, like, kill ourselves. Because we don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Or because mission accomplished, I guess.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Is like,
depression. Yeah.
there's still that's a symptom of depression too. So
Yeah.
the most severe.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I still don't know. I think what the reason why also we don't know is because these records were concealed for such a long time. I think it wasn't until recently that they've become released to the public, and that's when the most recent book, Columbine by David Cullen, which is one of the quotes that you guys read. I think it was from the Guardian article. I think that's why that the Mythbusters are coming out, is because the FBI files are now being unsealed. So any final confessions? We're at almost at the top of the hour.
I have a confession for levity, if that's appropriate. But today, in reading quotes out loud for without pre-reading them, I realized that I still have anxiety about reading the words right, just like when you were little and you stand up in class and read out loud, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get this right.
Or you count, okay, so this person,
I'm gonna be
we have 7 paragraphs.
Yeah, everybody reads a paragraph or something.
You're like, all right, so I got to memorize, are there any words in this paragraph that I don't?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
It's kind of nerve wracking.
You had every opportunity to read the notes beforehand so that you didn't have to.
I did. You're right. Yeah.
I also did not pre-read it, and I also was nervous to read my words aloud. So,
good to know there's some things you just never grow out of.
True. It's a universal anxiety. It's a collective fear that we all share, which I love. I think my confession after doing this research is, I was thinking about this yesterday and it popped up a little bit for me today when you guys were reading. It's kind of two-pronged. One, the way we treat white boys versus the way we treat black boys is a completely different reality. It is bananas to me. The way that white boys are brought up in this society versus black men. School shootings happen all the time in black neighborhoods. All the time. But black students don't have mass casualties like this. And yet we police them more than we do white schools. So that would be my first, which brings me to my ultimate. Always comes back to slavery. We did not address the violence of slavery. And since then, we have bred a culture. I feel like Columbine is that. It's the equivalent to slavery of we did not address this issue. We lied about it. We created up facts. And now we have had 396 shootings since then. We've breeded a whole culture of hate since then. That's why I put that question in there of has this always been? It might have, but it didn't look like killing children like this.
Yeah.
And it's the same phenomenon of slavery. We just put a Band-Aid over it. We didn't really ever repair what was broken. And I don't know. I don't mean to end on such a sour note, but it just is making me realize of how deep our wounds are in this country. And, we, to how Steph opened up, the conversation of man, guys, we gotta wake up. We gotta wake up. This is not normal.
When you said that, it I always bring this up, so I feel like I've said this to you guys before, even on the pod, but after Sandy Hook, President Obama, tears rolling down his face talking about it. And, he expressed his frustration with the continual, mass shootings at schools continuing to happen. And he said that he wasn't able to declare mass shooting a public health crisis, which would have helped have people research at like the root cause. And so, because when you declare it a public health crisis, then scientists can then get to the core. And I feel like if he had had the opportunity, scientists would have been doing this research that you were doing and maybe gotten to the bottom of groups that, you know, and then maybe there could have been legislation in place for organizations, you know, like, you know, we've talked about the fact that the internet is the wild, wild west of the United States because it blew up before we could ever catch up with the information that is being put out there. And there's no laws in place to protect people. And if, you know, and I think it's because the people committing these school shootings are white boys. Because I think America would be all over it if the perpetrators were black and brown.
That part. Woo. Okay. Well, we are 1 minute away from the hour. That really had me. I'm sure it really had you guys. I kind of feel like I have Stockholm syndrome. Like I am very much attached to this, like scrolling and finding out more information. But I'm happy to be done. I also feel like I kind of fucked my algorithm.
I was going to say,
Like, what are you seeing?
you're going to be getting some awful shit for a while now. We'll keep sending you the humor to help.
Thank you. And I also hope the FBI agent who surveillances me knows that I was just looking up all these terms for funsies and that I really love people, all people, even white people.
You don't fit the mold, I'm afraid. You are not the demographic they are worried about.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We love you, Karens, and we'll see you next week where we'll talk about Forrest Gump.
Yes.
Jenna.
Bye.
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 Hey, bitches. That's a wrap on another episode of You Can Call Me Karen. If you liked what you heard or didn't, go to our show page and leave a review. Just know we will call you out. And if, unlike my two co-hosts, you find yourself scrolling endlessly on TikTok, follow us at You Can Call Me Karen. And if you're still living in the 20th century like a boomer, don't worry. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at You Can Call Me Karen_pod. We love you for listening.
And they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same.